Good evening. So it concludes the great Universal Classic Monsters movie month. And it concluded with more than just this one, so I'll just briefly go over what it concluded with. Of course, we watched season 2, episode 1 of The Mandalorian. Not a Halloween thing, but it was there, and so we watched it, just like everybody else today. Um, Before that, while cooking, we started a movie called Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which I apparently knew it existed to the extent that I put it on a playlist, but it just completely, for whatever reason, I don't know why I put it on the playlist. Probably because Chevy Chase was in it, and there are, I guess, a few other people I think I recognized. Um, Surprisingly good. Does an interesting thing where, whereas the Universal Invisible Man movies, early movies in the history of Hollywood, they wanted to show off we can make it seem like there's an invisible person walking around, and so they didn't ever show, unless he was all wrapped in bandages and wearing clothes, and they rarely showed the actor playing the Invisible Man. In this, one of the interesting things that is done in this version with the Chevy Chase is perhaps because Chevy Chase is a big star and they want to make sure his face is in the movie. When he's alone, when it's just the audience and the Invisible Man, we can see him, and even sometimes when he's with other people, we can see him. They can't see him, but for instance, they often have a mirror near him. So if he's doing something, we see him holding a phone to his ear and then holding the button part of the phone down lower, and we see that configuration in the mirror without him. So we see Chevy Chase, but we also see that he is invisible. Um, I don't know his character's name, Holloway, something Holloway, but not Griffin. But the way he becomes invisible is that he is in a building when some research experiment explodes, and the building becomes partially invisible and then completely invisible, and he and his clothes, very conveniently, become invisible as well. So um, we haven't finished it yet, but we will. The malevolent supernatural force I live with, and I. And I did watch The Fly last night, the Jeff Goldblum version, the Cronenberg version, and that is a new classic monster movie. I don't know if it's Universal or whatever, but it is definitely a new classic. These are the old classics. That's a new classic, and that's a great monster, the Brundlefly. But tonight was The Creature Walks Among Us, the last of the Creature movies, and the last, chronologically, in that DVD set, 1956, and done. And true to threes in trilogies, it's the most ridiculous one. But and I will continue to compare to Jurassic Park because the original Jurassic Park, of course, Oscar quality movie. The sequels increasingly not so, but I still like them for what they try to do. And this one definitely tries to do something. Rico Browning back as the monster when he's or the creature when he's underwater, the Gill Man, and in this case, Don McGowan played him on land. And while he's on land, so the it picks up in a very logical place. It's of all the sequels in these monster movies, it's the most logical sequel because in the last movie he was defeated but lost somewhere in Florida. So now you have this wandering around Florida, and so naturally people are going to try to find it, to whether it's dead or alive, so that they can make sure that it doesn't harm anything, because it's not supposed to be in Florida, which is why they should have left it in the Amazon. But so it starts off there. They go and get it, and they're talking about making it human because it's so close to human, but it's not quite human. And while the creature is the featured monster, the monsters, as can sometimes be the case, and in this very Frankensteinian sequel to the creature from the Black Lagoon, the monsters are the people who want to do monstrous things, including that most monstrous thing, make you like me, like. The most monstrous human impulse, make others exactly the same as me. If you don't follow my religion, you go to hell. If you don't like the same movies or books that I like, you are a Neanderthal. Things like that. And in this case, they thought, well, it's almost a human. we will bring it, we will capture it, we will strap it down, and we will surgically or through some other means make it, like, I think I'll have to see it again to get exactly what the plan is. I don't know what the plot is. I watched the movie. Their plan, I'm not as clear on. But the plan seems to be that if they give it lungs, if they give it this human thing, the rest of it will just become human. And fortunately for them, it has a human underneath its gill-manness. I don't know if that's how biology and evolution works, but part of the capturing process is they set it on fire. Partially its fault. It did dump a can of gasoline over its head, but then somebody tossed a candle at it. I don't know why they had a candle on a boat. They had flashlights, but there was a fire, there was a flame. They tossed it, and the creature caught fire and burned away its outer scales, revealing human flesh. Burned away its gills, but fortunately it already had lungs. Again, I don't think that's how evolution works. This supposedly prehistoric beast that survived somehow all these centuries, millennia, million-year periods, whatever, also had all the equipment of the final evolutionary form of the great apes, even though it's a fish. But that's the movie that we have, and it's interesting, and it gets to ask the interesting questions of, as long as we have this thing, why don't we make it more like us, because it's not special enough? Again, evil human impulses. Then, of course, the movie goes on to show that human is not necessarily a superior thing to be than this wild animal. So, ridiculous movie, but, and also, since they make it, I don't know if they make it human or it becomes human naturally. That was a bit fuzzy. But it becomes more human. It can't go in the water, so they build a nice big cage for it where it kills a mountain lion or something like that. And eventually it becomes Frankenstein's monster in another way as well, in the same way that the Mummy became Frankenstein's monster, where it's just a big thing that causes havoc at the end of the movie. A big hulking, somehow when its outer shell got burned away, it bulked up. It was a nice lean, mean monster, and then as it becomes more human, it gets physically more massive, and it smashes things. And the fact that it becomes more like Frankenstein's monster and the Mummy became toward the end of their series make the ending of this movie at once more ridiculous, but also, because it's the creature from the Black Lagoon, a little bit more poignant. And I won't say what that is, but it's something that I complained about the Frankenstein and Mummy movies ending the exact same way over and over again. But with this one, it's better. It was a pretty solid trilogy, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And now it, like all the rest, is over. So back in the box, in the lagoon. And now everything is back in the box except this little booklet, which now is back in the box as well. The box is back on the books. And I'm not out of movies. We'll watch some monster movies tomorrow, and there will be a specific movie that I will focus on for a video, so I will get all 31 days of the month of Halloween. But that's exciting, if for no other reason, and for plenty of other reasons, but for no other reason than all the DVDs worked. There was a few skips in one of the movies, not one of my favorite movies, fortunately, but I mostly buy DVDs used, and so I get a little worried, but that's because DVDs skip if they're scratched or if they're old or whatever, and it's if I'm going to risk this thing not working, and I don't trust new DVDs either, I'd rather pay $1 to $3 than $15 to $30. But supposedly I bought those new, and there are 30 movies. I don't know how many discs, but 30 movies, and every single one of them worked. So that's a relief, and I'm grateful to that, because 8 of them I already loved, and now 22 of them I'm gonna like having them around. But still, a big risk. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and say have a lovely midnight.